彼の残した言葉の中にもあるんですが、いい写真を撮るための最初の条件、これはカメラを持っていることだと。彼が一番思考していたのは、多くの人にいかに写真を撮ってもらうか。
1960年代に前谷さんというオリンパスの技術者がいましてね。
カメラが当時はまだ高級品なので、前谷さんをはじめとする開発の方々が多くの人に使ってもらうにはどうしたらいいかって考えた中で、カメラ自体をもっと安く作りたい。
当時6000円で作れないかっていうふうにできたカメラです。
そして当時高かったフィルム代、現像代を少しでも負担を減らしたい。そうしたらハーフサイズのカメラを作ろう。そうすると倍撮れるのですごく経済的です。
で35ミリカメラの24枚だと48枚撮れます。それが非常に画期的だということで、使われた。ペンが出た時にオリンパスを持って家族写真を撮ったりなんかする人が非常にいましたですね。
主にプロを中心として使う機材が変わってきていた。なるべくいいものを作ろうと各社していて、どうしても大きくなってしまっている。その中で前谷はやっぱりプロが本当に求めるものってそういうことなのかっていうことに疑問を感じて、その中で生まれたのが OM1 だと考えています。
結局彼がこれ集大成なんですね。やっぱりかなり命が吹き込まれたカメラではないかなっていうふうに僕は思います。
When I got into the newspaper business, it was just coming off the time when 2.25 was kind of the equipment preferred. The guy that hired me came from the speed graphic day, the 4x5. As technology progressed, all of a sudden it was accepted that 35 millimeter was great for newspaper work. It's not as physically imposing as a larger camera. The more I become invisible, the more I can become part of the scene, the more the photographic opportunities present themselves to me. The camera, it becomes a productive tool. It's there for a purpose. Maitani realized that, and that drove the original design of the OM. When you put it in your hand, everything was where you wanted it to be. The aperture's right here. My two front fingers take care of that. Other fingers fall back to the shutter speed. It's an enabler, it's a conduit, not an interference between you and what's happening.
1996年にオリンパスは最初の民生品のデジタルカメラを出したわけですけれども、フィルムであろうとデジタルであろうとないものを作るというのは全社共通で今でも一番ベーシックなところに流れているのではないかなと考えます。
デザインを検討するときにスケッチを書いて最初検討して、その次にですね 3D データを入れてからこのようなラフな削りのモデルを作ります。でこれをベースにボタンの位置が適切であるかとか、あるいはグリップ性能はこれでいいかとかっていうのを検討していくんですけれども、我々が一番に考えていることはやはり使われる方、ユーザーのことです。
There's certainly an emotional connection with your camera. As soon as you pick it up, you know, you have a feeling. It's the design, it's how it looks, and it's how it's going to support you in achieving the image that you want to capture. Size and portability and mobility in photography is a message that we've been talking about for decades. The philosophy of the Olympus cameras is being able to shoot everywhere. We had a photographer go to Antarctica, and obviously you've got crazy low temperatures there. We created technology that enables them to do that. If you were that customer, what would the end solution be that you would want? It's important to always be thinking about what do people need, what are they going to need, what's the future going to be, and to aspire to deliver that.
災害に遭われた方が取り戻したいものの最も大事なものの一つがやっぱ写真なんですね。それって単なる現像された紙ではなくて、その当時の家族の思い出がやはりそこに残っているってみんなが思うので、思い出を取り戻したいという気持ちがあると思うんです。つまり写真にはそれだけの力があると 思っています。
I've got a photograph of our son. I think he was a year old. It's got the catch light in his eyes. Wonderful moment of him getting ready to tap the glass. It's not a great photograph, but it's a great moment. Wow, look at that. I remember that. Oh, look at this. You know, raising your kids, the pains and the struggle and the exhaustion and the joys and all these things that occur. What a wonderful confirmation it is of you as a human. This is who we are and who we were.
今でもそのものを作るにあたってはお客様の声というのをすごく大事にしています。舞谷が残した言葉の一つに、我々はカメラを開発提供しているんではなくて、カメラを通じて人々が幸せになることを提供しているんだという言葉があります。ないから作る、その精神というのを日々実現しようと、これこそが社会に対するオリンパスの役割だと思っています。
Oh, wow. Good evening. Good evening. How are you all? To be honest, first thing I would like to say, thank you for coming. And I need to check the sound first because I have a brand new setup here. You can see that I have a new boom mic. Thank you, Rode, for sending me the mic. And also preamp everything. So hopefully it sounds as good as it looks. But anyway, how are you all? Welcome back to my live stream. It has been a while, as some of you already mentioned. I think it's about just about a year, I think, since my last stream. Although I did a collaboration with Peter Forsgaard last, I think it was April, maybe June, and I cannot remember now, when Laowa launched a new lens and we both did a joint stream together. But that was the last time I kind of went live, and so this is it, you know, after a whole year, and I'm a little bit rusty, so so forgive me if I make a lot of mistakes. I can guarantee I'm going to make a lot of mistakes on the way, but I'm really super excited because I have been looking forward to starting my stream once again because I think this is a great way to communicate with a lot of you, and also you know, just to show you pictures here and discuss photography together live. I know sometimes you know, when I make videos and waiting for you guys to comment and then I read them and reply, it takes forever, right? You know, the process can be a little bit lengthy, so I'd rather do this maybe so we can do something live together, you know, and I'm trying to make this as a regular thing if possible, and hopefully this will become my regular schedule from this point onward. But yes, we have a lot to talk about today, and obviously the big thing is photography. One of the reasons that I played the old Olympus 100-year celebration video was to show you exactly what photography means. You can see that within the whole context of the film, it's all about, you know, catching the moment and you know, making sure that you can execute and tell the story, as you know, this is all about photography, right? It's like painting, it's about storytelling. They didn't really mention about text so much, which is something that I'm going to talk about today because first of all, you know, we are living in a digital era, and whereby everything is technology based, you know, regardless whether you think the modern day camera is a computer or not. Well, the fact is it is a computer, and so we're going to discuss a few things first, and I have a schedule, do have a schedule actually. It's just bear with me 1 second. So we're going to talk about the art of photography, we're going to talk about megapixels, we're going to talk about the medium, and anything else that you may want to talk about. And I did say it in my community post, I did a poll. I think a few of you actually voted 50-50. So talk a little bit about photography and talk a little bit about gear. So it's entirely up to you. Like I said, this is my first stream in just about a year. So I would just like to take it easy, have a little bit of relaxed things, and a little bit freestyle, so that you guys can ask me things as and when you want. And I will try to read through the comments, and I will highlight them as I go along, and I'll answer them as soon as I notice them. But because I'm using a program for streaming, so there is a little bit delay there. So if I missed your comment, you can repeat it. Don't worry about it. I mean, I don't mind that if you just repeat it, and hopefully I'll catch it and I'll answer those questions. Yeah, sounds good. So shall we start today's stream? And but before I do that, I do see a lot of names popped up, so I just want to say hi to everybody if I can, and I'm going to scroll all the way back up. So first of all, who's Seraphine? Yes, all the familiar names. I'm so happy you guys are back. And David Phillips, Steve Page, Cliff Webb, and Hey Dangto. Hey Dangto. Hello. Jess and Kelvin, Mark, David Crooks, and Felix, Faziel, and John, Wolfgang, Alan, FF Photo Shoot. Sorry if I pronounce it wrong. And Morgan, and John again. Yes, another John. Charles, Daniel, and yeah, that's cool. Right, fantastic. We have a few regulars here. That's so good, and it almost made me cry. Because I can get quite emotional in my stream. For those who attended my previous streams, you know that I can get a little bit overwhelmed, and also I don't know how to explain, excited, and I think that's the word. Hello, Preston. Okay, I guess we shall start. But one thing is that about timing of this stream. At the moment, I'm still trialing different start time. I started today for 8:30, and I thought that because I'm trying to tailor for both the UK and the US, and I don't want it to make it too early while most of you are still working, because I'm not entirely sure what the situation is wherever you are at the moment. In the UK, we are more or less opened up already, so many of you will be in the office. I know a lot of us still work from home, but obviously I don't want to disturb you while you're working, and so we're not in lockdown anymore. That's why I'm trying to find a time where everybody's free. So this is kind of my free time after dinner, and after my kids are in bed, and I have a little bit of time to do my own thing. So there we go. Thank you. Daniel say love you, Jimmy. Thank you very much. Okay, right. Let's first talk about photography. Right, like I mentioned earlier, the reason I showed you the 100-year celebration video is all about the essence photography. I think that film was made very well. Not only is showing you Olympus history, and also where Olympus came from, but they really talked about the essence of photography. It's all about capturing the moment, observing, and it's all from the heart, like, because you got, if you love photography, it's not just about camera, right? It's all about the emotions and how you can translate the emotion through the eyes, through the lens, into the output, into the prints, right? You see lots of prints in that video. I think what is lacking today is that I wouldn't say lacking. I think it's the transition, which is something we're going to talk about in a minute. Is we're transitioning from having physical prints to digital screens. So this is what I think we as people, as even as a photographer, have to accept that now. And it's really, really hard to basically still trying to convince people to print, because I know a lot of people don't print anymore, and they simply just store their images in their phone. I'm not sure how many of you do that, and how many of you still print. You can let me know how many of you are still printing photos at home or having albums print every year. But even my wife nag at me sometimes why I'm not printing some of the family albums yearly. First of all, I'm a little bit busy, and second, it's you can get a bit overwhelming, because with digital photos, not like in the old days when you are shooting films, how many roll of films you take every year. I remember the days when I used to shoot film. I would probably count I don't know, let's say for the figures, it's about 30, 40 rolls per year, like unless I have a holiday or something. I'm talking about personal stuff. So the amount of photos were limited. You don't have that many. But these days, you have mobile phone. You snaps every single day, and plus your digital cameras. So every time you go out, you pop out, you shoot something. You go out for a jog with your kids. You have a walk around the park. You take some photos. So you end up with hundreds, if not thousands, of photos. So trying to code that photos into like an album of 40 or 50 photos is going to be quite tricky. And so this is my challenge. I'm not sure about you guys. And let me know your experience about printing or maybe selecting photos. To cull a group of photos every year for your own personal pleasure or collections for your family, friends, or whatever. Jobs are obviously different. I'm not talking about jobs; it's only about personal stuff. So that is quite interesting, because that will lead into my next question. About how many of you are actually storing everything into your digital devices and viewing them, basically is part of your storage, your mobile device. And I have tons of images on my phone, and mostly family stuff, of course. And my work stuff is on my iPad, is for me to show my clients. But you see how the difference is now. I used to carry albums, and when I meet clients, I actually have my portfolio, have prints, like big prints, and then so I'd carry a kind of like one of those case to show my clients with my work. But these days, they don't care. They just want to, can you show me your iPad? Just want to flip through a few images of you that you took. This is kind of like what's changed in the landscape of photography now. And we don't see physical prints anymore. And clients may still want to see, depends what sort of clients it is. Let's say for my wedding clients, if they are interested in album printing, they will still want to see the physical album, see what it looks like. But it's more about the physical item than the actual print itself. So this is a quite interesting about how people's perceptions on print, and also how people are thinking about viewing things digitally. That is totally acceptable now. Hence, like business models has to change and adapt to what's available now. That's why, like in many of my packages now, let's say for weddings, I don't supply prints anymore, and I simply supply digital files, so they can do whatever they want, whether they want to store in their digital devices, or they want to making this little slideshows for displaying at home, and anything really. So it's entirely up to them. Once they have the file, they can do whatever they want. So let's answer some questions and see. I think quite a few of you have answered some of the questions here. Let's see. Ooh, who is Seraphine is actually saying that. Let me just see if we can bring this up. I carry a portable printer during street photography to give out. Very good idea. You know what? This is a very interesting thing, because I used to do that too. I have one of these what do you call them? One of these Instax cameras where you can basically transfer the file through Bluetooth, kind of thing. And when I do street portraits, I would do two things, or one of the two things. I'll either basically give them my business card, and I say that if you want your image back, I'll be very happy to email the photo that I take back to you, or I'll just basically print one out for you straight away. So yeah, this is something that I actually do. Well, not anymore, and but something that I used to do, but I'm actually quite happy to see someone does that too. Very good, very good. Chris is saying that print very occasionally, not half enough. I think so. Prints are good. Let's have some photos at the back here. I love physical items. It makes it so different once you see the print. And this is another thing that I think not many photographer, or especially photographer, have never print their own photos, would never appreciate and also understand the relationship between pixels and the actual size of the print. Right. These guys here behind me, they're just pure A4 size photos. They're not extremely big. I have some A3 and some A1 sizes somewhere in my corner there. But the fact is, they're all from my 20 megapixel camera. right? I'm not saying, you know, I'm not trying to justify small sensor, small megapixel kind of thing, but you need to understand when you're starting to print, a lot of things are very, very different to viewing them on screen. The two things there, resolutions, unless you are really doing close-up inspection of your prints, like really trying to dig out the details. It's almost like pixel peeping, but there are people who do that, and there are certain type of photos that require that sort of details. But most of the time, when you have a large prints, even prints like this is not huge. You know, you're still not going to look at like up close. You're going to stand back at least like 2 feet to look at them, and that means that you are not really trying to dig out the sharpness and resolutions or sort of details that can, like, you know, whatever you're trying to resolve in there. It's more of the overall aesthetic of the photograph itself or the print itself, not so much about like the ultra definition of details within the frame. And also secondly, it's about noise. This is something that no one actually talk about, is noise. You can't really see the noise once you print them, and I can guarantee that, yeah. And I have shot 60. This is before DxO Pure Raw, before any sort of like AI noise reduction. I'm talking about like 4 or 5 years ago. I deliver big albums, wedding albums to my clients, and some of the shots were shot at 3200, 6400. So you can imagine 6400, you know, is fairly noisy in the Micro Four Thirds world, and but when you print them out, you really can't tell. I mean, there is a little bit of it, but it's more like grain than actually digital noise that you see on screen. Is way more subtle when it comes to printing. This is something that many of you would never understand unless you see the physical thing in your hand, and then you start to realize that, oh, maybe I'm just a little bit overcautious about, you know, noise, digital noise, because we are seeing things on a screen which is backlit, right? You know, all the screens backlit, so it's shining through a piece of glass, so you can actually see all the noise, colors, dots, you know, whatever, you know, on in a photograph. So that's why you see noise. But when you start printing them, it's very, very different story altogether. I'm trying not to get into the technical detail, but you will have to try to see it. So trust me, once you try print a couple of photos that are shot at high ISO, you'll know exactly what I mean. And when you put them side by side to a lower ISO stuff, you probably won't be able to tell too much of a difference, if it depends on viewing distance, of course. But this is something that is very interesting. Right, let's see another comment here. Right, okay. Let's get this out of the way first. And I am not going to talk a little bit too much about OM system stuff, and only because you know, there are a lot of things that I'm not allowed to, and so I won't leak out details or anything like that. So if people are trying to press me, trying to squeeze a little bit of information out for me today, I'm sorry that you'll be very disappointed. Plus, you know, like, I probably know as much as most of you, and whatever is online is already online, and so all I can say that the latest OM system promo video is out today, and it's already got a link at the end of the video, or in the video description, saying that a product is going to be announced next Tuesday. So stay tuned for whatever is going to happen next Tuesday. This is going to be super exciting, of course. I am super excited myself, and this is something that I am looking forward to and have been raving about since last year. You know, if you've seen some of my previous video in this channel, you know that I was, you know, basically over the moon about the new product. So I'm just going to have to wait and see exactly what it is, what sort of thing it can do for me as a photographer, as an artist, and also as a you know, YouTube guy now, and trying to make some videos, and let's see what happens. We shall see. Okay, I'm not going to talk too much, otherwise people are going to start killing me. Okay, and let's see, David. Printing is a great backup when digital media fails, and it will fail. Very good point, and I do actually agree. And if you have a favorite photo, right, and I would highly suggest you to make it print. Right, it is simple. I give you one personal story. I photographed one photo that I took. I would say that when my son was 1.5, 2, just under 2. I remember that it was a very just like what Jay Dickman said in the video earlier, that it was a great moment. It wasn't particularly a great as an image, like it was shot at home, actually in the grandparents' home, and it was nothing, it's just a normal image, but it was his look. It was that light shining on his face. He's got that catchlight in his eyes. And he looked back at me when I just about to snap the photo. And it was that look that really captured my attention. And I snapped it, right? And I got that shot. Really beautiful. Like, that has to be one of my favorite photos for my son, And but guess what? I lost the digital file. But it was fortunate I made a print, so I have a print. So that is, so this is something that I have to say that if you love a photo to the point that you think that I cannot live without that particular photo, print it, store it somewhere safe, put it in an album, put it in a drawer, put it in a protective sleeve, something that would protect it. And because you just never know what will happen to your hard drive, even the cloud. You think cloud is safe, things can be hacked, and you just don't know what's going to happen. So if you really love a photograph, and I think you should print them, and this is my advice. So David, thank you for raising that, because this is one of my personal experience as well, and that's why I still print photos, and anything that I love. Like this one here, this is one of my favorite photos, and it is actually an awarded photos in Japan, and so I really love that. So I thought, if something happened to my file somewhere along the line, if my library corrupts, I will have a print. I still have a print right here, so at least I got something. That's my story. Let's see if there is any other questions here. Daniel, is what you're trying to say here. I've always kept everything on my PC, but I recently picked up a few of my favorite images to get printed. It's a completely different experience, much more personal, and I felt proud. Yes, proud is the word as well, because it's a very different feeling altogether once you print the photo out. When you hold it in your hand, when you hang up, on the wall, when you see the print, it's very, very different feeling than just basically flick your phone up and just watching it, or just looking at it from the screen. Is very, very different, and you will feel proud. Suddenly you think that, wow, my photo's on the wall. It's just got that feeling that where you suddenly become a celebrity in the house. I got something hanging there. It's so cool. It's right. It's so different. It's a cool thing to do. Please, I suggest people to print. If you have a printer at home, try to print it at home. If you're not, trying to bring it to a lab. They're quite cheap these days. Even professional lab, you can print a photo for about £2-3. It sounds expensive, but only if you print like hundreds of them, right? If you're only selecting 4 or 5 of your favorite images, it only costs you like £10, £12. It's not that it's not that much money. So do print them out and just have a feel of it. Yeah, frame them up. Make yourself proud, suddenly hang it up on the wall. It's like, wow, cool, man. And if you've got kids who say, Dad, that's your photo, that's so cool, man, they'll start shouting out to their friends when they visit the home. That's really cool. That's cool. And okay, John, I print some of the time, most of my photos are on my iPad. Yep, that's exactly what we'll be on about. And we have prints, we have digital medium, and this is perfectly normal. I wouldn't suggest these days people to print everything out, and it's not feasible. Like I mentioned about the amount of photos we capture every day or every year, it's just not possible. Not like like good old film days where we're only shooting like dozens of rolls a year, which amounted to about, I don't know, a couple of hundred photos. But these days we are adding a couple of zeros at the end of it. We are talking about thousands, and it's definitely not something I would do. Just pick a few that you love, and then just print them out, and you will feel very, very good. Let's see, Chris, what would be a first-time startup cost for basic printing? Good question. It's not a lot, and I personally use Canon printers, and I started out printing myself in the early days, and I've just bought a very cheap Canon printer. But make sure, I would suggest you to, if you print monochrome, like black and white, do make sure that your printer support mono printing. Right, this is very, very important. Like things that I print here, these are all printed by myself. You do need a black and white capable printer. Not all printers can do that, because if they don't have a dedicated black and gray inks, you'll run into trouble, because they basically use the colors, the three colors, and mix them up together, so you will never get a true black. So you've got this kind of horrible magenta tint to it. It's not nice. So if you want to print something that with a lot of contrast, and you do need a printer that is capable of doing mono. It's not on just for mono printing as well, for normal color photograph, because if there are blacks, you need to have those blacks as well, and then so make sure that you do have all those available colors for you if you're printing. But go back to the cost of the printing, and the printer that I bought was actually quite cheap. The first one that I bought was from Canon. It was only like, I think £80, 80 maybe £100, so very cheap. And paper, do get good paper though. Don't get cheap papers. That will be my suggestions. And if you're looking for home printing, try to use their own brand as well. I know there are a lot of third-party brands. Depending on what type they are, there are obviously good third-party papers that you can buy. But for me, just for easy purposes, you just get let's say if you get Canon printer, get a Canon paper, because you can actually download the printing profile from their website that will match the colors easier. This is a whole different topics altogether, because you have to start talking about calibrating and things like that. But for ease of use purposes, like try to get the same brand and download the profile, the printing profiles. You just install into your computer, and then you should be more or less there. You should get about, I don't know, but roughly about 90%, 95% there in terms of color accuracy. If you want total accuracy, you still have to calibrate your screen and output together, which is a very different story altogether. But for basic printing, you don't need to get to that level, because today's technology, especially color matching technology, is very good now. Most of the printers companies, Epsons and Canon, they are very good at generalizing the color profiles, and they kind of match most of the computer screens these days, especially like if you use Macs, and they are fairly color accurate. Some of the high-end PCs, laptops, and screens, they're really color accurate. I would say like 95 to 98%. So like from that point of view, you are getting fairly accurate colors. So you should be good to go. And just try it a little bit. It's not something that too difficult to achieve. But you may need to do a couple of trial prints to make sure that you have got the contrast right. This is how you kind of judge when you edit your photo as well, because if you edit your photo for printing, it's slightly different to editing your photo for viewing on screen. That's something that I need to basically advise you to take a little bit of a care, because contrast can be very, very different when you start printing, especially on gloss print. So just be a little bit mindful about that. Okay, let's move on to the next questions here. See who else here. Right. Lots of online supplier printers who will print out your favorite images and deliver them to you by post. Not expensive, but find a trustworthy supplier. Do Google around, and I have a couple that I use in London, and they are professional labs who did a lot of exhibition prints for me. And so even if anyone wants them, I could always suggest give some links out, maybe in the description after the stream. These are the people that I use in London. So for your location, you probably want to do a bit of research, just to see whatever people say about them online, and just do a quick kind of customer review. Research, like a desktop study. You should find out exactly what they are. But because they're not that expensive, so you can always try a couple of prints just to see what they look like. And once you find the right one, stick with them, because all you want is consistency, so you know how they work, how the print quality comes out, and that way it's easier for you to match the output as well. So that's all I would say. Okay. Chris, I've always been reluctant to print and never seem to get the colors right on the print versus Lightroom. Right. This is exactly what I mean about color calibrations, and this is something that you will have to do if you really want to get a pinpoint accuracy. But like I said, most of the modern laptop most of the modern monitor, also the color printer manufacturers, they should have a pretty good idea what sort of thing they're looking for in terms of color accuracy. So I would say that you should be able to achieve what you're seeing on the screen, unless your monitor is not calibrated or your monitor is not very color accurate to start with. So this is something you have to check. I'm not sure whether you have a calibrator or color checker. This is something that you may want to invest, because this is also something that you may want to do anyway, whether you print or not, because ultimately you're outputting digital photos. You still want the colors to be as accurate as possible, not just about black and white, but also for colors as well. So just invest in the calibrations. Hardware is not expensive, and you can get Color Monkey, and I think they call it different. They got a new company just took over, Calibrite. I think that's what they call it now, Calibrite. And also what's the other one that I use? Spider. What's the company now? Spider Elite. Yeah, that's the one I use. And so yeah, get one of those. They're about £70-80 worthwhile investment if if you are really into photography, really care about your colors and output. You do need one of those thing, to make sure to check the colors of your screen periodically, making sure there's no color shift and things like that, because all monitors will shift the colors over time, and you just have to make sure that you're calibrated all the time. And for me, I usually calibrate my screen every 2 to 3 weeks, and just usually Macs these days are fairly accurate. I use the Mac laptop, so every time I calibrate the screen or do a check on the screen, they're usually within 99.5% accurate. So there's no difference there for the last 2 years now. So it doesn't look like there's any major color shifts anymore, unlike the earlier days of monitors where they just shift every year. So these days they're pretty good. Okay, let's see, Victor. Oh, hello, Victor. On my side, sound level is much lower compared to other YouTube videos. Anyone's similar issue? Can you guys hear me okay? I just want to do a sound check again. I can boost the level a little bit, but I just don't want to go too hot, because otherwise it will become quite loud. Okay, Peter is saying that okay, only sound on the left is rather soft. Right, that is a little bit weird, because I have selected my output as mono, so there shouldn't be dual channel, so both channels should be the same level as far as I can tell. So that's a bit of a mystery to me, unless it's a software issues again, because I remember last time when I did a live stream with the others, I don't know if you guys were tuned in with Peter Forsgard, Robin Wong, and all the others. I have our yearly meeting, and apparently my voice is very soft again, but that was definitely a software issue, because for my end I already set everything to maximum, and I could even hear myself clipping. So that has to be something wrong somewhere, something that I cannot fix. Okay, and apart from sound, hopefully you can still hear me okay. Let's move on to other aspect of it, maybe. Okay, when somebody is looking at my work and they say nice things about it, I tend to end it quickly as a self-defense mechanism. When it comes to automatically steal things I know anyone else. Right, okay. Photography, photographer, confidence, and all linked together, right? I would like to say, many photographers are not as how would I put it? It's not a word I use to describe photographers. And let's give an example, right? And for instance, Vivian Maier. You remember one of my recent videos talked about Vivian Maier briefly. Is that she basically is almost like an introvert. She doesn't like to speak to people. She doesn't like to talk to other people, and she takes photographs daily. She took photos every single day on commute, and but she never ever showed any of those photos to anyone. And even like to the end, obviously ran out of money. She became so broke that she couldn't even develop most of her negatives. But those that she developed, she never really showed to anyone, and she just keep and she just kept all of them in a box and never showed anyone. So you don't really need to be too worried about if you are a little bit on the private side of the photography. Some people will be complete opposite. They just like to show everybody everything that they took, and which is nothing wrong with that. I've never disagree or trying to discourage people to do either. Like to keep everything to themselves or show everything to everyone. There's nothing wrong with it. Because I also said that in my video that photography is very personal. It's it's something that you like to capture and something that means something to you. You take that photo. You don't need to show one to gain recognitions from those people, because at the end of the day, this is something that you enjoy doing. You just do it because you just love it. And but there are people, obviously, for me, of course, there are photos that I like to keep private, and there are some photos that I would like to show people. I'm kind of in the middle, I guess. And there are people I know, some photographers who just love to show every single one of them that every single day. When they snap 10 photos, they will show that 10 photos to everyone. And that's why you see like a flood of photos every single day and online now these days, because there are a lot of those people. Not saying that they're wrong, and this is something that I enjoy doing, and it's something that I would not discourage them at all. At the end of the day, photography is also a therapy, and something that I actually, speaking about therapy, apparently I just read something on BBC just at dinner time, and it's actually I think Aberdeen University in Scotland, and they have a new university course. It's called therapeutic photography, right? You can actually study a course about photography, but it's to actually treat people with conditions with photography. Well, this is something new to me, and I want to do some investigation about that particular course. I may actually ring up that professor to see what sort of thing that he teaches people about photography, and maybe trying to gain some insight about therapeutic photography. I want to learn a little bit about that, and just to see what the differences between what we do daily now and compared to what he teaches as a course, as a proper qualification, and in photography that is outside of the art scenes. And this is something that I'm quite curious. So I'm gonna bookmark that particular news and trying to find out exactly what they say about the therapeutic photography course. I don't know about you guys. Have you guys heard of it? It literally came out today, just this evening. So I saw it. I was like, oh wow, that's a new course. That should be quite interesting. There you go. Photography is changing every day now. We have a therapeutic photography. Sounds like Robin Wong, right? Shutter therapy. That's what he does. He's an expert on it. Maybe he should open a course in Malaysia. Okay. Let's continue another discussion here. Preston, I wish I could print out something like the old film transparency. It's like the benefit of backlit monitor with a specialness of physical media. I know. I have a lot of transparency myself, and I used to use one of these projector. You have that sound. Oh, those are cool, man. I'm saying, but I chucked that projector away now. All I have just transparency lying around, and because what I need now, I just use a flashlight, just shine behind it through the wall. It's different though, isn't it? And but yeah, I know what you mean. It's very, very different these days, and the viewing experience is totally different compared to what we used to have, back in the 80s and maybe even up to about 90s, early 2000s. Very, very different now. Okay. Chris also saying my left channel is a bit low. Right, okay. This is very strange. Any difference? I'm switching on and off something. I don't know whether it's making any difference at all. Okay. Let's continue. Left and right are not equal. So apparently, looks like there is something wrong with my thing, but it shouldn't be. This thing is not a stereo mic, so it shouldn't actually matter too much. Okay. Can you change from mono to stereo for your audio? Right. Okay. I'm going to switch off mono now. Right. It's off. So for my headphone, it's only left channel. I'm not sure about you guys. Let me know exactly what happened with my audio now, and so I can continue adjusting it. I think it's better before because now I can only hear my one side, and which is a bit weird to me at least. Okay, Preston. I haven't heard of therapeutic photography, but in my experience, a good OM lens cost about the same as 10 meetings with a therapist. Well, I can't resell my therapist later on as a new therapist. Oh, that's funny. That is funny. Thanks, Preston. You make my day. Right. Okay. So let's move on to our next topic. Now we talked about a little bit about. Actually, I kind of touched base on a lot of things here, and talked about the art of photography a little bit. We talked about megapixels because of the printing size, a little bit about printing, which is about medium, which I already talked about, and I have one, only right canal. Okay, so it is something weird going on here. I'm gonna switch back to mono. Now I can hear my both sides. How's that now? I don't know. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me now? A bit better? Nothing on this side of the audio, right? Anything now? Okay, I'm going to continue and just keep monitoring my audio and let me know how it sounds. I have just adjusted a few more things and hopefully it's a bit better. Okay, let's see. Right, yes. Okay. My next topic is computational photography. Right. The future, right? We talked about the future just now. And how do you guys feel about computational photography? Because we are in a digital era. We are in the next phase of photography. We are no longer relying on the old techniques whereby we are simply looking for light and trying to light and shadow and trying to shape our photograph with lights and shadow. Because these are traditional techniques. Not saying they're out of date. They are as important as ever. So don't get me wrong. But we have technologies now which will help us to do things that we can't possibly do years ago. So what's your view on computational photography? Do you accept this? Do you think it's a good thing? And how far we can take in the futures about actually the whole digital photography thing? Because Olympus obviously one of the pioneers in computational photography, and I personally love the likes of a live bulb, live composite. They are, to me, they are fantastic feature. And imagine in the old days when I was had to capture, let's say at a wedding there's fireworks, like you need a lot of experience, you need a lot of trial and error to make that work, and a lot of guesswork there. But these days, and gosh, live composite, you just leave it on and you just build up the image right in front of you, and as you can just basically see the image built on the screen, as long as you think that, oh, that's right now, and you can just stop it there and then, and you can build the image that way. It's fantastic. To me, it's cool. It's just one features that I think is worthwhile. Just if I get it, if one camera just sells that features, I was like, okay, that is cool camera because of that feature. So for that, I really up for that. And even for the likes of Live ND, this is another thing that I do like. I know there are debates when Live ND first introduced a couple of years ago with the E1X, and the Live ND features, there was mixed kind of reaction from photographers by means of the movement doesn't look as natural as using a proper ND filters, for instance, and other like artifacts that came out with it. But you know how computer works, right? Similar to smartphones. The fake bokeh thing, every generation is going to be better. The machine learning is getting better, and the result is going to get better and more natural as a result. So, like, that when the fourth, fifth generation comes along, those ND live ND pictures are going to be I wouldn't say as good as like natural ND filtered photographs, but it will get close. It will get close. Trust me. But for me, in terms of creative purposes, that allows me to do something that I couldn't possibly do before the Live ND feature came about. And I want to show you one photograph, which I use that particular feature for that. And let me just see if I can find it. And let's see. Let me just close off this particular thing here. And is it this one? Yes. Okay. Right. This is one photograph that I use Live ND and live on street, and it's a normal shoot that I use. If I had to do this before Live ND come about, I would have to use obviously physical ND and to slow the light down. As you can see that this is the bright daylight, and not only I have to stop the lens down to f22, which is already not great because diffraction, and then I will have to employ ND 64, maybe even 100 to stop, depending on the light intensity, of course, and to slow it all the way down so allow some movement. This is not normal movement. This is not like movement you can get from like 1/30 of a second. This is like half a second, maybe even like almost 1 second. So like you can't really get a sharp picture because not me personally, and but sometimes you have to imagine the model or your subject, your talent could move within that 1 second. So you will always going to get some movement somewhere, so you're not going to get a perfect sharp photo. So now with Live ND, you can actually, because of computational stuff, you're starting to mimic it. So I'm actually able to capture something like this while the talent of the subject is perfectly sharp, while the background or whatever is moving is blurred, which is actually pretty cool. And that opens up a whole new creative avenue for me for photos like this on the bright daylight. I'm not suggesting doing the same thing at nighttime, because I will probably still prefer using a ND filter if you want to do long exposure photography, like fine art, for instance, and seascape, because they still look much better with the actual very smooth transition between elements, for instance. But something like this that I'm showing you right now, and is perfectly acceptable, and then it's really cool. And I shot this for many of my clients, and they love it. Not just for buses, but sometimes for people, human traffic, and they really just like the sense of movement within the frame. But all I did was just basically switch on Live ND and just snap the shot, and that's basically it. Together with obviously the Olympus IBIS, and it works perfectly for this type of creative photography, and I love it. Have you guys ever tried something like this? And let me know your experience on this type of Live ND creative photography. Can I say that something like this? I think it's pretty cool. Let's and then I think I'm just trying to see if I can end our photo that I can show you guys, and probably not Live ND. I've got other artistic stuff I can show you later, maybe. Right, okay, and let's see what you guys think about the hello Samsan. Okay, now you can hear you left side only, but not okay. Right, it's still talk about the audio. Sorry, I'm just backtracking some of the comments. Daniel, computational is exciting. Things like Live ND and HHHR are great. What's HHHR? Can you explain? And I can't wait to see what OM system brings with the next camera. And yeah, talk about computational or artificial intelligence stuff. What do you guys think about this automatic subject tracking thing? And that's another thing that I might want to bring into the conversations here, to see if any of you like that kind of thing, because I'm a little bit old school and about subject tracking thing, and I know it's convenient, I know it's accurate, especially nowadays, and also is almost hassle-free. You can just basically lift up your camera, look through the viewfinder, as long as you're pointing in the right directions, and somehow, somewhere, the system will find a subject and start to lock on and tracking the focus and stuff like that. It's already happening everywhere, including this smartphone can do that as well, and which is crazy, right? And but I still like that manual touch somewhere. I mean, I'm not talking about manual focus, still AF, but but I want to control my AF point, and then still trying to move my thing around, and I don't know. It just me personally. Maybe just that I don't fully trust automation, and maybe just purely just from my personal perspective. I know they're accurate because I've tried a lot of the AI stuff already, especially on the the EM1X. They have a couple of those modes that I tried them before. They are really cool things to have, but I personally still would like to use my AF points and clusters and move them around, trying to track them myself instead of relying on those little automation boxes that come out on the screen. But that's me. Okay. Morgan said, I'm using DxO Pure Raw. Please build it into the camera. Well, this is another subject I'm going to bring up later, so I'm going to save your comment as my favorite, so I'm going to bring that up in a minute. So thank you for that, because this is interesting. I will talk about that as well. So, and Tudor, I feel that computational photography, if you mean stuff like phones can do automatically, would take out some of the intentionally of the act of taking that photograph. Woo! Okay, interesting stuff they talked about there. Well, I'm not talking about to that level, and although I think most of you are already aware of the upcoming, I don't know when they're going to release it, the upcoming AI camera Micro Four Thirds apparently as well, is Alice. Camera Alice is a fully automated AI camera that basically does everything for you. So as long as you put the camera on the tripod, you aim it at whatever you want to aim at, and you just press the button, and somehow this thing does everything itself, including you know, live actions by means of, you know, like I saw the demo. So what it does is, if you, let's say if what I'm doing right now, right, and if I'm holding an object, and if I start looking at the object, the camera will automatically recognize my action, would focus on the subject, because I'm looking at a subject here, and then the camera AF will basically focus on that thing instead of me. Right, that's scary, right? As soon as I turn my face back to the camera, and then the camera will recognize that I'm looking at the camera again, and then it will automatically focus on my face again. So this is happening. That's the AI program that they're building into the camera. And so it's almost like a cameraman, an automatic cameraman behind the camera that does that focusing or choosing the focus for you, which is kind of scary, right? And imagine that that's only the beginning of the AI power that you can build into the camera. And what about other things, you know, like you mentioned here, and replacing sky live, replacing certain things live, you know, imagine that. And I do agree with you, yeah. And as a photographer myself, as a guy who's been taking photos manually for a long time, and I think that if you take that away from a photographer, it becomes no fun. You know, like where's the art then? You know, you're not really producing anything. You just basically hold up the camera and just press the button, right? I totally support what your statement here, and that because to me, I would like to physically go out, hold the camera, do the setting myself, wait for the moment, and, you know, click the shutter button when that happens, right? You know, there and then in front of me. I want to see that. I want to experience what's in front of me and capture that right in front of me. Not about the computer generating all these false replacements and all the effects and kind of thing that make it perfect. Sometimes I don't need that perfect photos. You know, I just need the perfect moment. And which is exactly what Jay Dickman said in the Olympus video right at the beginning of our stream. And also what I mentioned about my son earlier, about that particular photograph that I took a few years back, is something that I need. I think there's more organic, there's something more humane. You know, it's something that I prefer to see. You know, like you want to see the human touch to your photograph, right? Because when I also mentioned that, I think in a couple of my videos, in my recent videos about the art of photography, is that when you study a photograph as a collective photographs from a photographer, sorry, I'm a bit stuttering at the moment, and you can actually see the personality of the particular photographer. You can actually see the way he approaches stuff. Well, this is something that you want to see, right? And if you have an AI program that does everything we just mentioned, and then you lose that character, you lose the personalities within that frame, and that basically the photograph becomes synonymous. No one would know who took that photo, and because eventually, if everybody buys the same camera, they would basically have the same photographs. And let's go back to my argument about whether photography is an art, because the earlier argument about whether photography is an art is because let's say a painter would simply say that I don't think photography is an art if everybody can take the same picture, right? And so that's totally true. If somehow along the line in the future where there's a camera that does everything, has the same algorithm, and produce the same picture wherever you place the camera, and that becomes a postcard making machine. It's just not gonna be a personal anymore, and then you lose that touch. And once you lose that personal touch, you lose the voice and you lose everything, and you lose the art side of photography. And I think that to me, I don't mind automation, but I would totally against that technologies that basically take over. I know the convenience, I know the usage of it, and but for those people who are really into photography, who are really want to create images, and I think that they would say no, and most of them, and it may be a toy to play with for a start, but I'm pretty sure those novelty will wear out pretty soon. But anyway, that's another subject for another day, and I know I can drag on for a bit for that particular point. Okay, let's see. Okay, oh, there's a new comment here. I'm very excited about computation photography. It makes our work way more easier and accessible, and enhance our creativity for outstanding work, concentrating on other important stuff. Yes, and so apart from the AI stuff we just talked about, I think generally we have to embrace computation photography, because this is not going away and is going to be here, and especially for Micro Four Third. And I think the computation photography can help the platform by quite a significant margin, because we have a smaller sensor, we have a smaller output, and that means that it makes computation photography a lot easier compared to higher megapixel, larger format. It's physics again, unless you're started to talk about putting a supercomputer in a camera, and that's a totally different thing altogether. But for Micro Four Third, and it's totally feasible, and we can make things a lot better. One of which, one of you guys already mentioned about that. Why don't we build in a pure raw DxO noise reduction into the camera? But the fact is, if you shoot JPEG, the noise reduction algorithm is already automatically applied, right? You can select, 3 levels, low, medium, and high, in your camera for JPEG output. So yeah, I can see that, it's totally feasible just to basically put in the pure raw algorithm within the camera to do just that, and you can have a clean JPEG and also clean raw if you wish. So you never know. I'm never say never, but I think at some point a camera may want to do look into that sort of computational stuff, simply because there is so much you can play around with hardware, and this is exactly what smartphone companies are doing. Apple, Samsung, all those companies are playing with software rather than hardware, because there is so much you can play around with. They still have to maintain the form factor. They're not going to have a huge lens on the phone, because otherwise it's not portable. So that means they will have to use software to compensate a lot of the negatives that from a tiny sensor on the smartphone, which they are doing a brilliant job, I have to admit. And same principle can apply to smaller format cameras, and such as Micro Four Third. And I think it's a totally interesting way of looking at it in the future. And so I think I'm hoping someone would be listening and start making some sort of design and suggestions within the R&D, and start looking into some sort of software integrations into the camera, and boost the Micro Four Third feasibilities and also capabilities by quite a margin if it's successful. And I'm pretty sure that is totally doable in today's computing world. So that's interesting, of course, and I'm all for it when it comes to that sort of thing. Right. Let's see. Yes, only hear left channel. People still only hear left channel. Guys, I have trouble doing this unless I change my amp. I have another amp that I can try out, but it's really strange that it's only one channel though. Maybe have I done my thing properly? Let me try it. Ugh. I'm pretty sure my cable is very secure, so I can't unplug it again. Ugh. This is very strange, by the way. But the thing is, I can hear my both channel. This is why I think it's a little bit weird to me. Let me just see check the setting here. The audio seems to be fine. Map. Okay. Let me unclick this to see if right. How does it sound now? I switch off something on the software, not hardware. Hopefully it's better. Okay. Right. Okay. Oh, handheld high res. Sorry. Okay. Now I'm so slow on the comment side. Handheld high res. Yes, it is pretty cool. Handheld high res, and the IBIS is definitely good in Olympus cameras, and I have to say, I am pretty sure they're going to continue to improve, and it will continue to shock the world. And one thing that I always tell people, and they don't believe me, and is that if you use a full frame camera that has an 8-stop IBIS, and you compare that to an 8-stop IBIS on a Micro Four Third, it's a night and day difference. Yeah. Okay, I'm not trying to bash full frame. Like I said, and I'm a photographer. I use a lot of stuff, and but it is something that many people just never, ever, ever believe me, and which is so wrong. You have to try to believe me, right? If you use a Micro Four Third camera, try the IBIS. And you see in the video, you know, it's so stable. And yeah, try to vlog with a Micro Four Third, and then you try to vlog with a full frame camera. Both have 8-stop IBIS, and you tell the difference which one is better. Okay. Oh, a new guy here. Oh, hello, Guzman from Uruguay. Okay, that's cool. I'm a newbie to computational photography. I've seen some stuff about iPhone being able to track focus in post. It's amazing. Which I think it can expand the creative possibilities. Indeed it is, and that's why I love playing with my iPhone, because a lot of the time it's just trying to get ideas, and at the moment I still don't like the processing within the smartphone, especially the latest generations of smartphones. There are a lot of over sharpening, a lot of over process noise reduction within the images, and which makes it look a little bit fake. It looks all right on the screen, yeah, but once you put it on a computer, blow it up, you will see a lot of defects there. And but again, you know, this is how depending on the usage, depending on what sort of thing you do with your photographs, and if it's just simply want a moment or two, you know, snap these, which is totally fine, and by means of that, yeah, and it's still better than a lot of the older point and shoot cameras, so that, you know, that's why it's still okay to a certain extent. But for professional use, for my type of photography, if I'm going to do for my projects and stuff like that, I probably won't use this unless it's emergency, unless my camera's broken down or run out of memory or battery, then I would take this out and start snapping. But that's a totally different story altogether. But yeah, its techs are definitely interesting in the camera world now, and the smartphone is definitely paving the way for new techs and new capabilities. There's something that I'm hoping a lot of the manufacturers will start taking notice of. I'm pretty sure they have already, but it's just I'm not sure what's holding them up, and perhaps maybe resources, maybe to do with the actual design integration with the processor and the sensors and stuff like that. Because we don't forget, yeah, computation photography is a lot easier with smartphone, and all to do with the sensor size. Yeah, the bigger the sensor, the harder it gets. So this is something you have to bear in mind, and that is also why I think in terms of computation photography within the interchangeable camera system or mirrorless would be Micro Four Third. They have the highest possibility to integrate a lot of this computational stuff because it has a smaller sensor by far, and so that means it's a lot easier for them to implement a lot of the stuff that we just talked about. So that will be quite interesting to see in the future. Right. Okay. Sounds like that people are saying that my sound is a lot better now, which is good. Good to hear. Oh, that means it's a software issue. I think I just fixed that, and it's just a little button. apparently, about mixing channel. Sorry, and I have no idea because I can hear myself. I just don't know about you guys. And now I figured that out. Is actually that little button that I have to switch off. Okay. Let's see another thing here. And vector pure raw can be a little too sharp at the edges, and noise doesn't affect naturalness. Right, you know that. Okay, for those who are not an expert or don't know much about the DxO Pure Raw, you can actually switch off the camera profile. Right, once you switch off the camera profile, it will not automatically sharpen those images. And so there you go. There's some tips for you. But then obviously you will lose some optical corrections, such as distortions and maybe some fringing, stuff like that. And but you will get a much more natural images. But then you just have to correct it again in Lightroom. If you're using Pure Raw, that means that you probably use the Lightroom or other form of editing anyway, so that you can actually do that after that. If you just want a noise-free image, and that's what you would want to do. Or alternatively, for me, if I use Pure Raw, what I do is I clean it up with the camera profile on, or the profile module on for all the images. Then within Lightroom or a Photoshop, I will switch off the sharpening. So that means I'm not sharpening twice. That means that you get a much more natural image as a result. So that's another tip for you if you want to use Pure Raw to its maximum. So we shall see. You never know. Maybe we, at the moment, I think Pure Raw is a little bit basic still. So I'm hoping that DxO may release a version in the future. When version 2 come out, hopefully there'll be more parameters where we can actually adjust, such as sharpness, for instance. I do know that a lot of people did say that the images come out of it is a little bit too sharp, and so I'm not disagreeing it, because I do see it myself. That's why I have to switch off sharpening in post, and if I use Pure Raw, because it does basically double the sharpness, and if I do that or double process it, so it may not look a little bit natural, look unnatural. Sorry, that's the word I was trying to say. Okay, right, let's see. Litro camera. Oh, someone mentioned Litro camera. Whoa, who has used one of these? You know what? I had one and I sold it. And it was a pretty cool camera, I have to say. You know, obviously the tech wasn't matured, and also the AI functions that we have now for fade bokeh and fade depth of field with the new cameras have completely changed the way we manipulate images in post. Litro is a light field camera, which is a very, very different camera altogether. Is just basically very advanced stuff. I actually love the idea, and I played with it. I thought it's really cool. However, you know, like, there were a lot of downside of the camera. First of all, it's the resolutions, and then the sharpness, and also you need a lot of processing power to see and view those images, and which is something that I wasn't prepared to do. When I first tried to snap few photos and trying to play around with it just never got it right. And especially the softness, I just could not get used to the softness of the coming up from Litro camera, and you can't sharpen it, because they are not flat image. They're 3D image within the file. So like, it's not something you can just plug into Lightroom and just change it. You have to use that dedicated Litro editor to do things. And no matter how you adjust it, the images are still not as sharp as you would like. I'm not talking about ultra sharp, but just sharp enough to say that your photos is in focus. That's how soft the images are. But other than that, you know, it's a fun camera to try, and I do liked it. And at the time, just to play around with, just learn a little bit about tech. You know, like, aside from being a photographer, I also like my tech stuff as well. And so whenever there's a new tech, I always like to try it. Oh, that's cool. Thanks for reminding me that camera. And yeah. Oh, Ray is here. Hello, Ray. How are you? Now I think that my voice is a little bit too hot now, coming in a little bit too hot. Let me just adjust a little bit. I can hear myself eclipse a little bit towards the high end. Right. Melon and Mango, hello. And how is your Billingham Rucksack 25? I'm looking to get one that is big enough to put my M body with 3 lenses and an SL body with 2 zoom lenses. Oh my goodness. The 25 is cool. I have it right here. Let me just see. Let me just try to imagine. You want a M body with 3 lenses. That's totally doable. SL body with 2 zooms. I think you can do that. In the 25, yes, I think you can do that, because the central compartment is quite long, so you can put the SL with a lens attached and then another lens on top of it, and the M body, another 3 lenses. The lenses are quite small anyway, so you can put on either side of the compartment. So yeah, I think the Billingham 25 will fit what you just said there, and it shouldn't be a problem at all. Okay, let's see. Google find. Right approach, no going to war in the field of sensor. Okay, Dave. Hi, Dave Nelson. Any idea what dynamic range of the newer iPhone is? Ooh, you're asking something that I cannot answer you. All I can tell you is that it using Smart HDR now, and it basically combined multiple frames, and it does it live, and that's how fast the newer camera is. You can switch it off, but every time you switch off the HDR mode, you will find that all the sky is clipped, basically pure white, and that's the dynamic range for you. So it's very narrow, it's not very wide, and if you focus on a person, basically everything behind will be blown, and likewise if you focus on the sky, everything in front will be under, and so the HDR has been maturing over the last few generations, and I would say that the latest generation is actually pretty good, yet the skin tones still look a bit weird, and I'm hoping that they can fix it in the next couple of generations. At the moment, I wouldn't want to use too many of those Super HDR photos within the iPhone, and because especially when you're shooting people, and the skin tones always looks a little bit too pink for me, and I hope that they will fix it at some point. Yeah, okay. Oh, everyone can hear me now. That's good. I can. Thank you. And I have to apologize that my limited knowledge on channel mixings and no, it's just my software. I'm not familiar with this particular software here, and I didn't know that they have that feature about mixing. I thought I'd done everything right. I'm pretty sure I've done everything right with my hardware, because then I didn't know that it was my software who was causing all the trouble. So I apologize for my poor audio at the beginning. So at least we fixed it. We got it right at the end. Now I know, so next time I will not do that again. Okay. Fernando from Chile, hello there. And okay. Snapshot Corner, hello from Norway. Is at the end. In the end of the picture, is supposed to tell a story. Technique, modern cameras and computers is just the way to get the history. Sounds got better. Okay, thank you. Right. Yeah, I think you kind of got the gist of everything we just said. Basically, that's basically summarizes everything that we talked about technologies, about the photography, the art of photography, the essence photography, and everything like that. I think is pretty darn right. You just got it there. Computer is a matter of processing. What you capture. It's just like the old analog printers, where there's a guy physically there developing your photos and putting on the paper and do all the dodge and burn stuff. Like in the old-fashioned way. To be quite honest, I miss that though. I know people hate chemicals and stuff like that, but I love those process. I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting old. I just feeling a bit nostalgic, thinking about all this old manual work, getting your hands dirty, putting your lab coat on, so you breathe in all this chemical, it makes you feel high for the next 3 days, and that kind of thing. But it's something that I kind of miss. These days, what I do is, look, I'm just facing the computer screen, I'm just like working my way, looking at the screen for hours and hours and hours. I feel like more like a robot than actually human in some cases, and especially if I do a job, right? If I have a job that I have like hundreds and hundreds of photos and I have to go through them for like a couple of days, I will feel like a robot looking at the images. It's like, oh gosh, man. Oh, next one, another one. This is how I feel, every single time, when I do a lot of images. That's why like I do envy sometimes, the people who are doing it for fun and doing it as a passion, and as in a pro environment, obviously it's very different. I mean, I still love my job, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be doing it. But the thing is, depending, on situations, sometimes it does get a little bit repetitive. It does get you, a bit bored, just looking at images on the screen and keep going through hundreds of them, and sometimes it gets your brain dead. No matter how creative the photograph is looking in front of you, you just simply look past it because it gets to that point that you're becoming so robotic about everything that you do, and so you just have to be careful sometimes. That's why, like, every now and then I would just stop, basically, and I would just walk away, have a coffee, even stop for hours, maybe even a day or two before I even come back to the computer and start editing again, because it gets to that point that is so many photographs, it just drives me nuts sometimes. And I hate to say that, because I do love photography, but it does sometimes. Okay, John, film cameras doesn't have IS unless you use a lens that has it. You have to concentrate on your shooting technique. Absolutely. Well, to be honest, with or without IBIS or any sort of stabilization that we have the joy to use these days, especially with Micro Four Thirds, is that you still have to get your technique right. IBIS will help you, and remember the word help. It doesn't do it for you, right? And you just have to learn the basics. And this is a thing that I always say to people time and time and time again. It isn't just about it's just not about shooting the computer. Not just about the IBIS, not just about the processing power, not just about dynamic range, not just about anything. You got to learn all the basics. You got to learn where the light is to start with. You got to learn the basic composition. You got to learn the exposure triangle. You got to learn all this stuff before you can create a good photograph. And all these technologies they are there to help you. They're there to help you to do things better, maybe quicker, maybe more accurate, but it doesn't do it for you, right? You still have to have that technique, the old-fashioned technique that you need to learn. And that's why if you study photography in uni, and you still have to go through the manual way. They will ask you to buy manual film cameras, everything manual, because you just have to learn the old-fashioned way to start with, and to learn about all the theories and things like that, because they all gonna build up and help you become a better photographer in the future. Not so much about tech. Tech is there to help, to assist, not to initiate, to do it for you. So this is something that you got it right there, and you just got to make sure that you understand that, and to practice, to shoot more, and that way you get better and learn what sort of setting you should be doing for what sort of lighting situation, what sort of effect that you want to achieve, and also like look out for the lights. Not just about pushing the ISO. You got to look for the right light to take photograph. It's not as easy and simple as just basically touch a few buttons and you get a great image. It's not about that. It's all about your eyes, your decision to make those settings and to capture that particular photograph at that moment in time. So that's the probably summary that I want to talk about. Okay, let's see. That's another thing. Ray has a point here. Let's see. It is probably a sad fact, but a lot of photos will only ever be viewed on the phone and be stored in the cloud. Oh, this is going back to what we talked about earlier in our conversations. Yeah, it is basically it, and that's why I said, please, if you have the space, buy yourself a little printer and print some of your photograph, your favorite photograph. I'm not saying that you print everything out, but print some of the photograph. Then you start to appreciate photograph, right? Not photo, digital image. You're not talking about that. You should have a photograph in your hand. It's a proud thing to do. It's a cool thing to do. And once you put them on the wall, you can show everybody your work, and then it just makes yourself so much better, and also makes you feel better, and also makes your everyone who see your work feel proud of you. And I think it's a very good thing to do. And please do print something. I'm gonna put some printer affiliate links in my description afterward. Yeah? Start buying printers through my link. Okay. Let's see. Anyone else here? Okay. George, can you turn off in-camera processing that's done through JPEG? I'm not entirely sure what in-camera processing you're referring to. If you are thinking about adjusting certain settings like noise reduction, sharpening, contrast, yes, you can adjust those in the camera, so that will obviously affect the outcome of the JPEG, or you can change the color profile. That's probably the easier way to do it. Apart from that, you're not having too much things you can adjust and for the JPEG in camera. So I think you need to elaborate a little bit, maybe see what sort of thing you're referring to exactly, so I can help with that. Victor, I start to love the AI sharpening, and I think this part can be very popular in the near future, and that will recover you even from 2 pixels image. Well, actually, you know what? I agree. Totally. I do have Topaz sharpening, the AI sharpening. And I use it for emergency purposes and also upscale some of the older images that I have. And it does a brilliant job. And I'm not joking. Yeah? And there are a couple of images I remember that I done last year, and I was done it for a client. And it's a series of images. I shot about 10 frames, but there are a couple of frames. It was actually tracking, and so I did miss the focus in a couple of those frames, which I actually liked because the emotions, it just looks better in those particular frame. And I thought, jeez, I missed the focus just by a tiny bit. It's not completely out of focus, but it just slightly. You can tell when you nail the focus or not. So it's just slightly soft. And I thought, oh no, what happened then? And so what can I do? I can't just basically boost the sharpening on Lightroom or something, just trying to hope for the best. And then I tried the Topaz AI, and the result was quite mind blowing. I have to say, it just basically transformed an image. It looked, I wouldn't say 100%, but it get me 95% there. It's almost like it's in focus, and that's pretty amazing. So that's something I would use for emergency purposes. I wouldn't say that I would use it for everything, but like I said, also for upscaling is pretty good as well. If you want to upscale a photo, and that will be quite useful as well. But yeah, the sharpening tool on the AI side is getting quite ridiculous actually. Just like noise reduction, the AI noise reduction is also getting very, very good as well. Okay, Moses. Another Billingham fan here. And speaking of Billingham bags, have you ever had any issue with any of yours? I have 2 separate bags failed on me in 2 different places. Screws coming apart. Right. Okay. No. Well, yes. One time there's one screw that became loose. It didn't come off. It became loose. I don't know where you live, Moses. Because Billingham will fix that for you. And but that would mean that you will have to send it back to Billingham. They will fix it for you, or they will basically send you a part so you can try to fix it yourself. And I sent my one back, and they fixed it for me in a few days, and came back like new. So there's nothing wrong with the screw. I'm think that you're probably referring to the kind of like a brass nuts to hold the strap, right? It's probably that part. And yeah, only one bag ever experienced something like that, because all my other bags are totally fine, and I have quite a few, as you can imagine. I have probably about a couple of dozens here. I'm a Billingham nut. So I rarely experienced that, but Billingham, as usual, they're very happy to fix it for you, and so I don't see the problem there. Like I said, contact Billingham first, and maybe send them a photo, exactly show them which part that is loose or come off, and then they would advise you whether they send you a part you can replace it yourself, or you can send it back to Billingham so they can fix it for you. Okay. Other than that, they are as good as the old Billinghams, which will last you for a long time. Okay. Flower Bees, love your content. Thank you. Any thoughts on what Sigma might be announcing tomorrow? Hey guys, how come you all ask me about what's happening, what's new coming around the corner? Because you think that I know everything in the industry? No, I don't. And okay. In the version of Pure Raw I have latest, you can choose to turn off global sharpening and lens distortion correction on and off independently. Oh, there you go, Morgan. So thank you for answering, and I'm pretty sure that people already read your comments. So because I'm still tracking back the comments at the moment. Steve, back in while the sound has been fixed. Okay. I have a Sigma 19mm 2.8 and it is weak at corners, but somehow was really nice about the lenses, the corner sharpness, center sharpness, but rather the color and a unique rendering. Okay, let's do a little bit of geeky talk, right? You know, we did say the 50% photography and 50% gears, and maybe touch base on some gears at the moment, yeah? So, to me, I never too bother about the sharpness of a lens, and that's a fact. You know, I know that, you know, we could say that sharp lenses are good. You know, it's very easy, especially for my reviews. I'll always say that, oh yeah, this lens is sharp, you know, like a knife, you know, whatever, you know. And but to me, it's all about the visual aesthetic or rendering, as you put it, how it looks, how it feels when I take a photograph. Because sometimes some of my photos are taken with vintage lenses, and then I love them because it's just how it looks. It just matches the theme and the look that I want to create at the time. Not necessarily, I don't want all my images like clinically sharp, you know, like ones and zeros. I don't like that. It's becoming too digital. Is that the right word? Too digital. Once again, maybe I'm just getting old. You know, I just like my photo looks a bit organic, and then looks a bit more natural, looks more real. You know, because sometimes when things are a bit too sharp, it just presents a lot of problems, and then and it's starting to look a little bit too manufactured, and I just don't like that. Similarly, if I shoot 4K videos, and I just think that sometimes I would rather have something slightly softer than just ultra sharp. You can see Hollywood movie does the same thing. You know, a lot of Hollywood films nowadays, and they put film grains on artificially. They put things just to deliberately soften the image because it's just too sharp. It just comes across just way too much details that is unnecessary and becomes distracting. And that is why many of the movies these days, they actually try to unsharpen the thing instead of leaving it at default. Similar as photographs, and a lot of the high megapixel cameras nowadays, if they are genuinely photographers who are not pixel peepers, they actually do the similar things. They will actually add more film grains and trying to soften the image a little bit, make it more real, more real life, and then too artificials and digital. But luckily we are in the Micro Four Thirds world, and luckily Olympus are quite good at their image processing. I think a lot of the images are actually pretty good, especially the lenses are pretty organic, and one thing I always praise about Olympus optics when comparing to Panasonic, for instance. Sorry, Panasonic guys, I'm not trying to bash your lenses. Your lenses are great, but it just not for me, because a lot of the lenses are a little bit too sharp for my taste, and Olympus on the other hand, it just looks a bit more softer, not in an unsharp way, but just a bit softer. It's just easy to swallow, you know, to it's more pleasing on the eyes, at least on my with my eyes, and I think they're just better looking in general. But obviously these are personal preferences, and you may like, you know, the pin sharp pictures that Panasonic lenses come about, and but I just like the overall rendering from Olympus lenses. But lenses are very personal, you know. Like I say, I have a whole bunch of lenses, as you can imagine, and in here, and some of them are too sharp that I just never use, and some of them are too soft that kind of in a horrible way, so I just don't use them either. But there are some in between, you know, that kind of have that overall vintage look, and then some of them are really cool sharp, I would say. You know, it's a bit weird I'm talking about this, and but yeah, it's just better looking images, and I'll use those more than anything else. Right. Ray, I don't know about everyone else, the future of photography, but the future for me is to see the world more with my own eyes, and best capturing tool and memory capture. Sorry for the philosophical. No, you're right. I mean, I made the video literally last week about use camera. I actually said this very thing about using your money, and it's best to travel around the world to see the world more, and you got better thing to photograph as well. So this is something that I think everybody should do, and because you only got one life, right? You only got a pair of eyes. You only got limited time to do things. So I know we are gear nerds, and I'm not excluded. When I see some nice stuff, I would like to get it myself. But if I have the time, if I have the money, and I would definitely go travel a lot more, and just to see more. I can take more photographs. Gear is secondary, because at least to me, like a £2,000 cameras is no difference to a £10 camera, and I would like what Ray said. I'd rather see it with my own eyes, so see it, to witness it, to feel it, then I capture it, and then so this is something I think that it is an important step, for any photographers, and but obviously my story is slightly different. I live in a professional world. That means I have to satisfy certain things, my obligations, for instance, my appointments. So I have less of that luxury to do what I just said, and I do travel for work. I do take photos for work, but it's very different when you have that free agenda where you can just roam around things and different places with your own time, and without any sort of restrictions. For me, if I do it for a job, I have a schedule. I have 2 days here, and I have to do this and that. I have to satisfy my clients. I have to satisfy the art directions and the things like that. I don't have any other freedom. Sometimes you think that I'm quite lucky to have that position just to go around to do things, but at the same time, I admire a lot of you guys to have that freedom to wait for the shot, to do things in your own time, to spend hours processing your photos. For me, like in a professional environment is very, very different. I have limited time to do things, to turn around the project, to satisfy my client's deadline and things like that. It is not easy, and I would like to have that luxury for my own stuff. Of course, I can choose to do that, but like I said, because this is my living now, I make money from photography, and that means that I have to do that first before I can do even my own projects, and that it become a secondary thing. So it's not that easy, and that's what I want to say. Okay, let's see. It's Melon. Do you have any prints available? Are you talking to me, Melon? And if you are, and I have prints available, if you're asking that, just reply me just to see what you want. Okay. Immutable Dew. Just got home from work. Do you cover any WoW or GXX rumor yet? No, I'm not going to, because I do not know anything. I am obliged to say I don't know anything, and I'm not going to say anything. Okay, and otherwise I'll be getting into big trouble. So don't try to get me off the camera. Okay. Okay, let's see in here. It has something over lenses heaven somehow. I can imagine why people like vintage lenses. The calculation may not be perfect like nowadays, but they have a unique look in that picture. Yeah, that's exactly what I just said. Oh, hello, Randy. How are you? And it's good to see you back. Good to see you back. Randy is one of my regular on my live stream, and I miss you terribly. Seriously, I'm gonna do this regularly now because I miss it so much, and I hope today has been enjoyable, and it's fun for me to come back, as like I said, and also I'm feeling a little bit rusty because it's been a while. Hopefully I haven't made too much of a mistakes so far, apart from the audio. Sorry about the audio. See you yet again. Okay, and Randy is shooting birds in local park. Hope you got some cool shots, and I can't wait to see some of your stuff with the EM1X, of course. Okay, Jason, I print all my favorite images, and if I printed the ones my wife wanted me to print, and I would run out of wall space and money. Actually, that is true because my wife keep asking me to print photos, and yeah, as you can imagine, because she would like to print a lot of my kids, and yeah, that could become a problem, and I have so many of them too, so that but it's fun, like photographs is good. Photograph is good. Keep them printing. Let's see. John Allen, what about the next WoW Oli camera out soon? Right, this I can tell you about because it's already out today. And Olympus OM Systems has already done the last video released today. And at the end of the video and in the video description in the website, it's got a link to the next product announcement, which is next Tuesday. So next Tuesday, you will have to stay tuned for what's coming. And it's going to be exciting, of course, because it's a new product from the OM system. And then you will find out exactly what's coming. Okay. Steve Page. Capture One is good for sharpening an image if that is what you need. To be honest, I've never tried Capture One myself, and I've tried others, and everyone says a good thing about Capture One. Any of you using Capture One? I think you can share your experience here. Right, a wireless viewfinder would be pretty cool. Right, you know you can actually use your smartphone as a wireless viewfinder. You can use the OI share, although it's a bit laggy, but you can do it. And I find that there are some specific usage actually. And if I set up the camera remotely, I know a lot of people do that actually, and set the camera remotely and just use the OI share to trigger the camera. And although there's always a bit of a delay, so like you may not actually capture the right moment, that's all I can say. But you can actually use it as a viewfinder and externally, wirelessly. Okay. The Hobbit movies were too sharp, and you can see that the props were fake, not real. Oh gosh, you know what? Yeah, if you look at a lot of these older movies, and you actually see a lot of flaws, especially viewing them on bigger screen in 4K. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. Older movies, when they're not as sharp, they can get away with a lot of things. Similarly, for movies that are shot in 24 and compared to 60 frame, and that's why so many movie directors are against 60 frame, because it's not about memory, it's not about things, it's about movement. And motion blurs within movies can cover a lot of the problems. And I can tell you that, especially action movies. I know there are a couple of movies that shot at 60 frames, and then when you see those action scenes, you can actually see that they're not touching each other when they fight. It's just so fake, yeah? So please just don't do that. 60 frame is good for certain stuff like cinematic, half speed or something like that, a slight slowdown. But yeah, don't go overboard about everything 60 frame, and you'll get in trouble. Okay. Williams, I have the Sigma 19 as well. I quite like the lens rendering, but do not like the noisy aperture that changes in large steps. It's not good for quick shot video using the red button in auto mode. Well, that's why, and this is why a lot of the video guys love using manual lenses, because they can get away with that, and also clickless. Clickless aperture lenses are always a preferred option for videographers. Yeah, for that very reason, basically. Yeah, and I would say that certain lenses are also got very noisy aperture as well. Panasonic 25 1.4 spherical, it's got quite noisy aperture as well. That's one of the reasons why I sold that lens, because it's too noisy for my filming. Right, Sam, what is the sharpest lens you use? Please name more than one if you like to. Right, okay. Sharpest lens. Regardless of platform, I would say Leica 50mm APO is very sharp, very, very sharp. And an Olympus 75 1.8 is very, very sharp. And also the 45 1.2 Pro, also very, very, very sharp. What else I can think of? What other lenses are ultra sharp? Canon 135 f2 EF mount, the older lens. I don't know if they have got a new version, but then the old 135 f2 is very, very sharp too. Yeah, I mean, I can name a few, you know, and but only obviously lenses that I tried, and there are obviously a lot of sharp lenses out there. You know, if I keep naming them, you'd probably go on for a couple of nights. But to be honest, if you stopped on the lens at f8, you know, like most of them will be very similar anyway. I'm really talking about wide open sharpness, if that makes sense. Because they are crazy. Some of them are crazy. Okay. Oh yes, me. Yes, I do prints. I do prints. I do have prints. So let me know what you want. Yes, but I have a lot of my photos that I printed, and that through my career. Some of them, the exhibition prints, like the one behind me. This one's gone to this one. The dog has gone to Japan and back, and this one is only in London, and I have some other in my stack behind me, and I got some other in some other places. Yeah, they're all available, and I can print more, obviously, and if you want. I love printing. Printing is good. Printing always makes me feel good, and also just therapeutic. And when you see that print starting to come out from the printer, and it just makes you that very proud moments. Oh, my work is on the paper. That's kind of like the ultimatum of my success. Okay. Male enhancement. Casper, hello there. I'm so happy I can do some macro photography at work now and then. You doing some macro photography? Yes. Who does macro here? And I'm not a macro expert. Occasionally I dabble around macro to do something, and is pretty fun to do. What's one good thing about photography? You can have all sorts of possibility. You know, like I'm a portrait guy, so I shoot portrait and documentary and travel stuff. Technically, I'm not really landscape, but I do a lot of scenery stuff because of the genre that I'm in. So I do a lot of environmental stuff. So I do take, you know, landscape every now and then just to because it's part of the work that I do. And but I'm not really just a dedicated landscape photographer nor a macro, but because we have cameras, we have different lenses, we can do all sorts of stuff, and which is why photography is such a fun thing to do, right? You can do all kinds of things, and just as and when you want it. If you got the lens that is capable of doing certain things like macro, you can just go and shoot some macro, you know, as and when you want. You know, this is the beauty of it. I think this is the fun and joy of photography. You can just go out regardless, you know, what your specialty is. You can just go and enjoy yourself for a day, you know, just doing completely different, and come back and smiling and looking at your photograph and just say, oh God, I just make that mistake there. Oh no. But, you know, you laugh about it and learn about it and go and do it again. That's cool, right? Rand is going out with 4 cameras for needy photographers. Wow. Big name movie directors still shoot their movies on film. Actually, there's a resurgence of films lately in the Hollywood scenes, and they all go back to Kodak for movies. And yeah, I know there's a big push in films, and instead of shooting digitally, they shoot. Well, actually, weird. They shoot in film, then digitize them, and then put them in enhancement again, and which is what they do in Hollywood. But yeah, they shoot analog first, then they digitize them for easy archive and easy editing purposes, I guess. And but that's what they do now. So let's see other things here. And Melon said, "What's my favorite M lens of all time?" Oh, this is a tough question, mate. This is a tough question. My favorite M lens? I have it right in front of me, I think. Let me see. I have it right here. Has to be this guy. It's not the most expensive. It's expensive enough, but I love this. This is the 50mm Summilux spherical, and this was my workhorse and for a long time, and I love this lens here because of what it does. Beautiful rendering, not too sharp, not ultra sharp. It's sharp, it's really sharp, but it's not too sharp, not like the APO. And but it has beautiful creamy bokeh, and to me it just looks organic, looks the old film kind of look, just this Leica look, right? And so yeah, I like that particular M lens. I think that would be my favorite, and also not too bulky. You know, I know the Summicron is smaller, but the Noctilux is too big, and this is kind of like the midway. You know, just the nice M size, like nice rangefinder size lens, and it does everything for me. And you can stop down f8 is as good as any lenses, and wide open is lovely. There's no halo. It's just beautiful bokeh, just beautiful rendering, and yeah, just love that. Okay. With the advent of LED backgrounds, and screens, like what they used to the Mandalorian, eventually when it comes down to prosumer, consumer level, which would be used as studio photography to fake outdoor shoot. Yes, everything is changing now, you know, the way we shoot things, especially movie scenes as well. And this is something I actually kind of briefly talked about in the live stream with the others, Michael Forthert, content creators, a couple of weeks back with Rob Trek, and I actually said that, you know, people nowadays use LED a lot for anything really, and for as an artificial light source. But for me, I'm still a bit old school. I still like a bit of strobes and flashes and things like that, because for me it's more creative, and also you can have more power at any one time. LED is not powerful enough in a lot of cases. It's okay in dim environments, but if you're going outdoor, if you're doing outdoor shoot, for instance, and the LEDs is never ever going to be strong enough. You can do a little bit of fills, but then it's just never strong enough as a key light. And so if you want something that's overpowering the sun, you need a dedicated strobe. Even speed lights, the top end speed light can just about do that. So that means that, you know, I think that there is still a case for flashes, because they in the world of fashion photography especially, those are essential tools. And LED is it's easy, it's cheaper, but it's just not as good of a light source for many things. Indoor low light maybe just about okay, and but anything brighter, I think you may want to consider other things. So, but anyway, I think I'm going a bit off topic there, but this is kind of my take on lights, and I still prefer old school stuff. And William saying that Sony 85-135 are super sharp and quite expensive. You do get what you pay for at the end if you are chasing for this sharpness, and because any sharp lenses are not going to be cheap. Apart from maybe the Olympus 75 is actually relatively affordable and is very sharp. And but that we'll talk about Michael Four Third lenses, and they are usually cheaper anyway. Oh yes, I forgot about this. 50 macro, the old Zuiko 50mm f2 macro is an insanely sharp lens, and that is true. If you go to Lens Tip, no, what's that website that does analysis for lens sharpness? And I think they rated the 50 f2 macro is one of the sharpest lenses in the world. Yes, yeah, thanks for bringing that up, because I know that this lens is very known for its sharpness. Equally, I think the new M-Zuiko 60mm f2.8 is also very, very sharp as well. And that lens is just crazy sharp for anything. You know, you can do it for portrait, you can do close-up, and it's just phenomenal. And let's see. Melon also say that which of the Noctilux do you prefer? 1.2, 1.95? Right. Personally, if I'm going to get a Noctilux, I'm going to get a 0.95. And that's my take. That's my take. I know 1.2 is the latest and supposedly the greatest. But then again, 1.2 is sharper. I'll give it that. You know, the if you compare the 1.2 on the 1.2 compared to the 1.2 on the 0.95, the 1.2 is sharper. But, you know, if I'm going to get a Noctilux, I'm going to get the fastest Noctilux, right? I'm going to get a 0.95. I'm not going to get a 1.2. And because a 1.2 and a 1.4 is not that much of a difference in light gathering. And then I got my Summilux. Why do I want a Noctilux then? If that's the case. So I would still go for the 0.95. I shot with the 0.95, and it's beautiful. It's just crazy. That look is unique, the 0.95 look. So if you're going for that, I think I would go for the 0.95. That's for sure. Okay. Steve, which do you prefer, color or black and white, and why? Very good question. Very good question. For my personal work, I think I shot 80% black and white. For client works, it's mostly color. And it's weird. And for a lot of my commercial clients, they don't seem to appreciate black and white as much. Even though sometimes I think that shot is actually good with black and white, and but they don't see it that way. They just want colors all the way. But for my personal style, I prefer black and white, and only because I think that it tells the story better for me. But again, it's a personal choice, and it's not about just removing distractions from the frame or just looking posh. But it just I don't know, it just have a more impact when I see a black and white images. And so I a lot of the time I think things black and white in my head when I shoot. So that's perhaps just me, and I don't think there's any other reasons apart from what I just said there. What about you guys? Do you guys prefer black and white or colors? And that will be probably another good discussion for our next stream. It's going over nearly 2 hours now, so I think I'm gonna start wrapping up. It's been great though. It's been great interactions. I love that, guys. I love that. Really cool. Favorite M-Lens 50 Summicron D. Okay. Ooh, DR. You got some vintage stuff going on. Okay. OMDs just OMDs are just perfect for street. Is that what you're trying to say? Perfect or PenF? Perfect? Okay. Sam is saying Voigtlanders are equally good. Voigtlander lenses are really cool. And this personal experience, right? I used to when I was shooting with Leica stuff, and I had a few Voigtlander lenses, and they're really cool. I particularly love the 35mm 1.2 Nocton. That was cool. That was a really cool lens. That look was just so unique and lovely. Almost had that kind of Noctilux look, but just a 35mm lens. But I had problem with that lens, and I had the Mark II as well, the later version. And then, but is too much fringing, especially when shooting wide open between 1.2 and 1.4, 1.8. I can't remember now. I had lots of fringings, especially when there's a very high contrast subject that I'm shooting, and eventually just pushed me out. I had to sell that lens because it's just becoming unusable, because I shoot a lot of high contrast a lot, especially you can see that I love black and white stuff, and it's just becoming horrible, that's the word. So eventually I got myself a Zeiss Distagon 35 1.4 ZM, and that's a much better lens, much sharper lens, and virtually no fringing, and even I would say better than the Summilux, Leica Summilux, which I sold also, and basically kept the Zeiss, and I still have the Zeiss actually, and that became my go-to 35mm 1.4. It's an interesting lens. Voigtlander does some cool stuff if they can correct that fringing thing, that problem that I had, and that would have been my perfect lens. I would have just kept it and just used it, because the look from that lens was just super unique. And apparently they have a Micro Four Thirds lens as well, which is 0.8 f/0.8. Yeah, that's a Super Nocton. I want to try that. That's 28mm 0.8. Yeah, that's the lens. 1,800 quid though, and that will be quite an expensive Micro Four Thirds lens. And I haven't seen many people shooting with that lens yet. I haven't seen many sample images, and I would like to see it. I would like to try it just to see whether it's actually any good, especially on the micro four third. Imagine 0.8. You know, this is a crazy bright light, and it'll be like a night monster, that lens. And 28 millimeters is actually usable on a micro four third because it's only 56, so it's almost like a standard lens, and so it's a usable lens. So I'm curious. I'm definitely curious about that. Any wireless strobe that support with Leica? Not that I know of. Not that I know of. You have to use the Leica system first. The Leica flash does have a wireless sync, and that means you have to buy multiple Leica flashes to do that if you want to use the wireless setup. But it's not like a system like the Olympus wireless command system or any other Canon wireless system that you can have a command unit that you can control the groups and things like that. I don't think you can. I don't think Leica has that, so you have to have multiple flashes. You can do that via the flash. So this is something that you may have to check out with Leica themselves. But they haven't updated the flash for about a few years now, so I'm not sure, you know, how well they do now. But they are basically MES. I think MES, the other flash manufacturers, they produced it for Leica, so it's basically the same system. Maybe they are compatible with each other, so I'm not entirely sure. Chris is saying some Lumix is 2.5K to 3K. Well, I can tell you that, you know, Leica prices are going up every quarter. Every quarter, like every 3 months, they keep putting up the prices up. And when I bought my Summilux, it was not that price. It's a lot lower. It's still expensive, but not that expensive. But generally, if you look at prices on camera and lenses, not just Leica, they are going up every single year. And so, like, this is the world we're living in now, unfortunately. Inflations, especially now with chip shortage, transportation costs, and you are looking at increase in prices like no tomorrow. They are just keep on pushing up. So if you want to buy something, if you have the budget, buy it now before they go another 10% by the end of the year. That would be my take on it. And a lot of the lenses has gone through the roof over the years, and I know there are some deals on, so when you can see deals, maybe it's the good time to buy them as well. And because yeah, they go up. You know, you can see even Olympus lens prices. You see the RRP from the website. The prices has gone up every year. They do put up. It's not as crazy as Leica, but they do put up, I think, like 5% every year. So you see those numbers keep going up. Although having said that, they do match the street price, so their prices will usually come down a little bit, and also have deals every now and then that you can get on the Olympus website, which is actually pretty attractive in some cases. Like recently, you know, if you buy an EM1 body, you can get a 17-1.2 for free, which is crazy, you know. And you know, I remember still paid full price for that thing. Okay. Wow, TW saying the new Voigtlander lenses APO are giving the Leica lenses run for money. Wow, really? I haven't tried the latest APO lens, to be honest. And like I said, I stopped using Voigtlander lenses since I kind of switch over to Olympus. I still shoot Leica every now and then, and for when I test lenses, and also when I just shoot with my own project for film stuff, because I have my M6 as well. So this is when I use my Leica lenses, and I still have my M240, and I still love that thing. That's still the real last digital Leica brass construction with a base plate, not like the M11. We have no base plate and still magnesium alloy. Yeah, you're gonna have some brassing, man. You're gonna have some brass to call it a Leica. You can't have magnesium. And I know the silver chrome is a magnesium, but you know, you need the black. You need the black to be a chrome, to be brass. Okay, a vector for street photography will be choice of body and may have a noticeable difference in the kinds of the photo one can take. I have an EM1. No, there's no difference what sort of body you are. Is really personal preference, to be quite honest. I know people always say like rangefinder style is better for street. Yeah, I don't see the difference. Lenses, however, do make a difference, because you know, some people prefer to use a bigger lens, and I use a small lens, and I usually use if I'm shooting street. If I want to be discreet and shooting in daylight, and I usually have my 1.8 primes, because they are as good as ever, and they are tiny. and discreet. And at night time, if I know that I'm going to shoot all day, including evening, that obviously I'll take out the 1.2 and which is bigger, but then I still won't use my 40 to 150, for instance. These are just too big and too attractive to unnecessary attentions from people who may want to either steal your gear or just security guards will come and bash your head. So that's something that I probably won't do. But lens choice is probably affecting street than the body. The body. Micro Four Thirds bodies are small anyway, whether EM1 is big, yes, but if compared to a lot of things, it's still a lot smaller. And with the right lenses, your package can be very, very tiny, and so bear that in mind as well. Okay, thinking of Pen F. Oh, well, when you mentioned about Pen F, and there's no comparison. Pen F's great. I love my Pen F. Pen F is my favorite camera. Okay, and Steve, would you avoid mixing body and lens brand Panasonic Olympus? I'm considering Olympus macro and then on the G9 body. Any thoughts? Right, interesting thing. No, you can mix and match. I mean, I used to use Panasonic lenses on my Olympus bodies, and I still have a couple of other brands and mix and match. It's no problem at all, and especially now you can employ lens profile as long as it's in the digital file, in the metadata. Things like DxO PO RAW, for instance, it will automatically correct a lot of stuff, even though like Olympus body may not have Panasonic profile and vice versa, and you can actually do that. But Olympus 60 macro is an optically corrected lens, so it's a very good lens by default. So using on any Micro Four Thirds body will give you equally good results. So I don't think you should be worry too much about using the 60 macro on the G9 body, because is a great lens. The 60mm macro is phenomenal. And even if you do notice maybe a little bit of fringing or whatever, those are very, very easy to correct in post. And so yeah, I don't think you should be worrying too much at all. Most likely it will be AF performance, but if you're shooting macro, I don't think AF is a concern. And but overall, G9 is a very fast AF camera anyway, and so you shouldn't have too much of a trouble. And right, and this year's Black Friday was worst year to buy anything. Didn't even buy a single new camera body. I think Christmas was quite good. Christmas has a lot of deals, I think, and at least in the UK anyway, I saw a lot of deals going. Okay. Right. Shutterless cameras like Nikon Z9 and smart cameras. The future of... Right, to sum it up, and you may not be wrong, and this is where we're heading, and I think first we dump the mirror from the mirror box on the DSLR, and next will be another physical item, which is the shutter itself, because that's technology, and I totally foresee that, and I think that at some point physical shutter will be gone, and you got a much faster sensor. Technology is moving forward. It's available already, so it's a matter of filtering it down to all kinds of systems and all kinds of sizes and cameras and formats. So that will come. Smart cameras, yeah, it's already here. You see smartphones is already kind of like smart camera anyway. And Alice, like I mentioned earlier, is already doing just that. So the future is bright, but equally, as a photographer myself, I would say be mindful of technologies and use it to enhance your photography, not to replace your photography. That's what I would say. Consumer would use them to replace the photography only if they wanted to have a perfect photo every single time. But as an artist, as a photographer, would like to have fun with the camera and go and experience the world of photography, then I think that I wouldn't use too much of those automations and smart features, and I would like to use whatever it can enhance my output instead of actually doing stuff for me, like I said earlier. But anyway, so this is basically what I want to say. And hello, I love you too. Cool, right. Okay, I think I caught up with all the comments here today. And let's say any other final words here. Are there any character benefits using a Leica M lens on an Olympus via adapter, since the center are usually the sharpest? Well, okay. Just to answer this last question before we wrap up, is that I use my Leica M lenses on my Olympus bodies, and it does have the rendering, and like you said, because it's actually cropping out the center portion of the frame, you will get the best of the lens already, so even if you show wide open. So in fact, you're actually getting a better performing lens on the Micro Four Third. Just, you have to double up the focal length, that's all. But apart from that, you do have the rendering of a Leica when shooting Micro Four Third with the lenses. For me, I find it quite fun, depending on what sort of thing I do. I mean, I do use my Summilexos to shoot portrait, because 50 is kind of like 100, so it's a little bit long, and but I can get some really nice separations and stuff like that from my subjects, and sometimes I get some really cool Leica look for my Olympus. So yeah, that's all fine, and there's no problem at all. I think it's more about the characters, and you can still see it, but you see less of it only because you're cropping it in, and so you see less of the frame, and therefore you don't get the full feel of the Leica look, so to speak. But I hope you understand that. But that's kind of my experience when using Leica lenses on the Micro Four Thirds system. Okay, and Vector and doesn't feel that I expect global shutter or to any camera. I think so. Global shutter is probably another thing, and but there are so many technologies, to be quite honest, and it is coming, a lot of things, and we just have to see what comes first and what is feasible. Don't forget, its overall camera design is not as simple as just plug and play. It's not just about plugging in certain technologies in and out. It's a lot to do with the actual design of everything within the circuits board and all the other features and things that they have. APS-C, for instance, and I'm not an engineer, but so I can't talk technical in that sense, but I spoke to a lot of the engineers, including Olympus, before, when I asked about why don't they do this and that. They're usually saying that to me, that it's technically very difficult to implement certain things. That's what they said to me anyway, and but I trust their words, because they are the designer, they are the engineers who design cameras, and they did say that to me. It's not very simple because someone else has release a new sensor. It's not simple. I just use that in the actual design itself, because a certain throughput that they have to go through and so forth. But anyway, so this is the end of today's live stream, and I'm super excited and to see you all here and to join me tonight. And thank you for shouting out to subscribe my to subscribe to subscribe his vlog. Well, go and subscribe his vlog, then you want to see what he's doing. And anyway, really big thank you for all you coming and talk to me tonight. Shall we say next week again? Shall we do something similar again? Let's talk about another subject. I'm gonna put maybe you guys can leave me some comment after the stream, and what sort of thing you want to talk about. I will use your comments as a guidance and to see what sort of thing we should discuss next. If you guys want me to talk more about photography, any sort of photographs and stuff like that, I know already got some comments saying about portrait. Can I talk about more about portrait only after my my recent series about portraiture? People got really curious about things that I do, and also why I'm doing this and that. So if you want me to discuss any of those specific topics, please leave me some comments, and I shall have a look and make a topic for next week, and we can go from there. So from now on, and hopefully every week we can do similar things, and we can just continue to explore the world of photography. And of course, OM system, I'm here, and but I'm a photographer, so you can talk to me anything in photography, not just about Olympus or OM system, anything at all. And filmmaking, if you have any questions, and I'm here for you. So until then, remember to follow my show if you haven't already. Let me just bring in my show here. Where is it? Oh no, not this one, that's wrong. That's from last year. There you go, that's my show here. And so I have my Instagram, and also buy me coffee if you like to treat me a coffee, that's also welcome. Photo walk, yeah, and many of you have been asking me about photo walk in London, and if any of you are interested, please do also leave me a comment as well, and I shall do my best to organize a photo walk at some point very soon, hopefully, and maybe towards warmer time, and we can all go have a drink and take some photographs together. And how's that? I think that would be really cool, right? Anyway, I shall see you all next time, and I am super lucky to have you with me tonight, and also, you know, throughout the pandemic, obviously, and without you guys, I would not be here today. Oh, someone already said it. David said that, yeah, new camera announcement Tuesday. Maybe we talk about the new camera, maybe. After the announcement, we have another live stream. Maybe just talk about it, and let's see what it is. Okay, so I will speak to you all later, and all of you have a good night and good evening. Remember to stay tuned for my next video, and I'll see you all next time. See you then. Bye for now.